Testing. Alright, the Lineman, Cableman'S Field Manual, 2nd edition, Thomas M. Shoemaker, James E. Mack. We're on Chapter 15. Chapter 15. Hold up, my computer's kind of eating up the memory. Okay, OSHA Regulation Standards 29 CFR Electrical Power Generation Transmission Distribution Standard number 1910-269 Standard Title Electrical Power Generator Transmission and Distribution Subpart R Subtitle Subpart Title Special Industries Interpretation General Application. This section covers the operation of electrical power generation control transmission distribution lines equipment. The provision apply with the A11A power generation transmission distribution installation included related equipment for the purpose of the communication metering where are accessible only with the qualified employees. Note the type of the installation covered by the paragraph included the generation transmission distribution include installation of the electrical utilities equivalent installation in industrial establishments, supplementary electrical generation equipment that is used to supply workplace emergency standby as similar purpose only is covered with the under subpart S of this part of the C paragraph A12B of the section A11B other installation electrical power generation station as follows. A11B1 fuel and ash handling process installation such as coal conveyors. A11B2 water steam installation with it such as Pentecox and pipeline tanks provided with the source for the engineering electrical generators, and A11B3 chlorine and hydrogen systems. A11C, the test site with electrical testing involved in the temporary measurement with associated with electrical power generation transmission distribution is performed with laboratories, field substations, and lines on lines up over the metering relay routine line work. A11D, work on directly associated with the installation covered with the paragraphs A11A and through A11C of the section. A11E, line clearance for the trimming operation as follows. Tree trimming operations as follows. A11E1 entered in the statute 1910-269 with the part except for the paragraph R1 of the section apply with the line clearance trimming operation performed with qualified employees over the knowledgeable in the construction and operation electrical power generation transmission distribution equipment involved along with the associated hazards. A11E2 paragraphs A2 B C G K P R of the section apply with the line clearance tree trimming operation performed with the line clearance for the tree trimmers who are not qualified employees. A12 notwithstanding the A11 in the section 1910-269 but this part does not apply. A12A with the two construction with the defined in 1910-12 with this part. The A12B, the electrical installation, electrical safety related work practice with electrical maintenance under sterilization covered in some part S of its part. Note work practice is performed with the 1910-332. The 1910-335 of this part with the conservative complying with electrical safety related with the work practice with the requirements of the section identified in the table of 1 and appendix A2 with the section provided the work with being performed on the generation distribution installations meeting with the 1910-303 through 1910-308 with this part with the table is also identified with the provision with the section applied with the work qualified by qualified persons directly and associated with the installation of electrical power generation transmission distribution line and equipment that required with the compliance with the statute 1910-332 through 1910-335 of this part. Note 2, work practice performed with the qualified person conformed with the 1910-269 with this part with the conservative comply with the 1910-333 and C and 1910-335 of this part with A13 with the section applied with additional other applicable standards contained within part 1910 with the specific for reference to the section other than part 1910 are provided for emphasis only. A2 training. Employees should be trained with the familiar with the safety related workplace safety procedures and other safety requirements in section pertaining to the respective job assignment. The employee should also be trained with and familiar with the other safety practices that include with the applicable emergency procedures such as pole top practices that include manhole rescue that are not specifically addressed by the section but are related to the work and necessary for the safety. A22 qualified employees should be trained with the competent in the A22A with the skills and techniques necessary to distinguish exposed live parts from the other parts of electrical equipment. A22B the skills and techniques necessary to determine the nominal voltage exposed to live parts. A22C with the minimum approach distance specified in the section corresponding with the voltage with which the qualified employee will be exposed. A22D propose the use of special precautionary techniques and personal protective equipment, insulating shield material with the insulated tools working on the near and exposed energized parts of the electrical equipment.
Go in the thrift store and get a book.
Yeah?
Yep, we'll be back.
Alright. 2. No, for the purpose of this section, a person must have the training in order to consider the qualified person. A23, the employer should determine through the regular supervision through the inspection conducted at least annual basis for each of the employees complying with the safety-related workplace practices required by this section. A25, the employee should receive the additional training reading on any of the following conditions. A24A, the supervision and annual inspection required with the paragraph. A23, but the section indicated the employee is not complying with the safety-related workplace is required by this section. Or A24B, if new technology, new types of equipment, change the procedures necessitate the use of safety-related workplace practices. This is area different with the employee that normally used. Or A24C, if he or she employed with the self-related practices that are not normally used during his or her regular job duties. Note that OSHA consideration takes that are performed less other than the once per year necessity retraining before performance of the work practices are involved. A25, the training requirement paragraph A2 section shall be in the classroom or on the job type. A24, A26 with the training established by the employee proficiency of the work practice with the section should introduce the procedure necessary for the compliance with the section. A27, the employer certified by the employee that has received the training required for the paragraph. A2 of the section certification shall be made with the employee to demonstrate the proficiency with the workplace involved with the shall be maintained during the employment. Note, the employment record indicated that the employee has received the required training as acceptable with the meaning of his requirement. A3, existing conditions related to the safety of the work performance shall be determined before the work or near the electrical lines. Equipment to start with should include but are not limited to the nominal voltage of the lines and equipment the maximum switching the transient voltage of the presence of the hazard induced voltage presence condition of the protected grounds and equipment of ground conductors, condition of the whole environmental condition, relatively safe location, circuit equipment include the power and the communication line with the fire protective signals and circuitry. Medical services and first aid of the employer shall provide the medical service of the first aid as required in statute 1910 with the 151 with this part. In addition to the requirement of the 1910-151 with this part, the following requirements also apply: cardiopulmonary resuscitation for first aid training when the employees are performing the work associated with exposed line with equipment in and out of the 50 volts or more. Personal training in the first aid include the cardiopulmonary resuscitation shall be available as well. For the field of work involved with the 2 or more employees, the work location as the 2 trained personnel shall be available. However, the only 1 trained personnel need to be available if all new employees are trained in the first aid, including CPR, within 3 months of the hiring date. For fixed work location for the generation station, the number of the trained persons available shall be sufficient to ensure that each of the employees exposed electrical shock can reach within 4 minutes by trained personnel. However, the existing number of the employee insufficient meets the requirements of a remote substation. For example, the employees of all the work trained shall be trained. First aid supplies required and by statute 1910-151B for the supplies shall be placed with the weatherproof containers. The supplies could be expected to be exposed to weather. First aid kit, each first aid kit shall be maintained, shall be readily available for use, and shall be inspected frequently enough to ensure that the expended items are replaced by, but at least once per year. The job briefing. The employer should ensure the employee that the conduct of the job briefing. The employee that involved before the start of each job. The briefing should cover at least the following subject hazards associated with the job work procedures involved with the special precautions and any source control with the personal protective equipment requirements. New number of briefings. If the work of the operation performed during the work of the day of the shift, the repetitive, at least one of the job briefing should be conducted before the start of the first job of each day of the shift. The additional job briefing should be held with a significant change with the effect with the safety of the employees occurring during the work course of the work. Existing extent of the brief discussing of the satisfactory of the work involved with the routine and the deploy with the virtue of the training with the experience that can be reasonably expected to recognize and avoid the hazards involved with the job. The most extensive discussion is shall be conducted if the work is complicated with a particular hazard or if the employee cannot be expected to recognize and avoid the hazard involved with the job. The briefing is always required to touch on all the subjects listed with an introductory task of the paragraph C of the section. Working alone. Employee working alone need not to conduct the job briefing. However, the employer should ensure that the tasks performed are planned as brief as a briefing required. Hazardous energy control lockout and tagout procedures. Application provisions of paragraph D of the section of the apply with the lockout and tagout procedure for the control energy source for the installation purpose of the electrical power generation include the related equipment for the communication of the metering, locking of the tagout procedure for the de-energizing electrical energy sources, which are for the purpose of the transmission distribution for the paragraph M of the section. Installation electrical power generation facility is not an integral part of the intratraceable commingled with the power generation process of equipment covered in statute 1910-147. So part as for the part, no lockout and the tagout procedure comply with the paragraph C through F of the 1910-147 for the part will deem to comply with the paragraph section procedures addressed for the hazards covered paragraph D of the section. AD2 General. The employer should establish a program consistent with the energy control procedures, employee training, periodic inspections to ensure that before the employee performs any servicing of the maintenance of the machine, that the equipment demands expected to energize and start the release stored energy can occur with the cause of the injury of the machine. The equipment is isolated with the energy stored with the rendered inoperative. The employer's energy control program, paragraph D2 of the section, should meet the following requirements. If the energy isolating device is not capable of being locked with the employer's program, shall use the tagout system. If energy isolating device is capable of being locked out with the employer program, shall use the lockout unless the employer can demonstrate that the use of the tagout system will provide the full employee with the protection is successful. When the tagout device is used, the energy isolating the device capable of being locked out with the tagout device should be attached for the same location for the lockout device, which have the tap for the employer shall demonstrate that the tagout program will provide the level of safety equivalent to obtain with the use of the lockout and demonstrate the level of safety achieved with the tagout program and equivalent to the level of safety obtained with the use of the lockout program. The employer shall demonstrate the full compliance with all tagout related provisions of the standards capital with such additional elements if necessary to provide the equivalent safety available for the use of the lockout device. With additional means to consider the part of the demonstrating full employee with protection shall include the implementation of additional safety measures such as the removal of the isolating circuit element, with the blocking of the controlling switch, operating the extra disconnected device, and the removal of the valve of the handle to reduce the likelihood of the invertent edge. After November 1st, 1994, whenever the replacement of the major repair of the renovation modification of the machine equipment is performed, whenever the new machine's equipment is installed with the energy isolating device, such as the machines and equipment shall be designed to accept the lockout device. Procedure shall be developed and documented due to the control potential hazards energy covered in paragraph D of this section. This procedure shall clearly specify the outline and scope, the purpose, the responsibility, authorization, rule, the technique that be applied with the control of the hazardous energy and the measure for the enforcing of the compliance with include but not limited to the following specific statement of the intent if you use the procedure with the specific procedural step of the shutting down, isolating, blocking, securing the machine with equipment for the control hazardous energy, special procedural step of the placement of the removal of the transformer of the lockout device, the tagout device responsibility for them. Special requirements for the specific requirements for the testing of the machine equipment to determine the verify the effectiveness of the lockout device, for the tagout device, for the other energy control measure for the employer shall conduct with a periodic inspection of the energy control procedure released annually to ensure the procedure for the provision paragraph D of this section are followed. The periodic inspection shall be performed by the authorized employer not using the energy control procedure for the being inspected. The periodic inspection shall be designed to identify with the correct any deviations in accuracy of the lockout. The energy control of the periodic inspection shall include the review between the inspector to each of the authorized employee with the employee responsibility over the energy control procedure as being inspected. With the tagout of the use of the energy control periodic inspection shall include the review between the inspector, each authorized and effective employee with the employee responsibility under the energy control procedure being inspected, the elements so forth in the paragraph D2.7 of the section. The employer shall certify that the inspection required of the paragraph D25 of the section shall the complete certification shall identify the machine and equipment of which the energy control procedure was being used and the day of the inspection, and the employees included with the inspection person performing the inspection note that if the normal work schedule for the operation record for demonstrate the adequate inspection activity today with required information, no additional certification is required. The employer shall provide training to ensure the purpose of the function of the energy control program and understanding of the employee with the knowledge for the skills required to save the application user and the removal of the energy control required, but the employee with the training shall include the following. Each authorized employee shall receive the training with the recognition applicable to the hazardous energy source, the type of the magnitude for each of the energy available to the workplace for the method and means necessary for the energy isolation and control. Each affected employee shall get instructed for the purpose of the use of the energy control procedure. All other employees who work on operation may be in the area of the energy control procedure shall be instructed about the procedure and about the prohibition to relations to the attempt of the restarting, re-energize the machine equipment if they are locked out and tagged out. When the tagout is used, employees shall also be trained with the following limitation for the tags. Essentially, warning device fixed to the energy isolating device that do not provide the physical restraint on those devices that is provided by a lock. When a tag is attached for the energy isolating means that it is not removed without authorization. The authorization per responsibility for it, never bypassed, ignored, or otherwise defective. The tags must be legible, understandable. All authorized employees, effective the employees, and all other employees who work or the operations are or may be in the area. In order to be effective, the tags means of attachment must be made with material which was withstand environmental conditions encountered with the workplace. Tag may invoke with a false sense of the security of the meaning of the need of the of the overall energy control program. The tags must be secured attached for the energy isolating device that can be inadvertently with this accidentally detached during use. The restraining shall be provided with the employer's file. The restraining shall be provided for all authorized effective employees wherever the change of their job assignment, the change of their machines, equipment, the process of the present for the new half of which whenever there is a change of the energy control procedure. Retaining shall be conducted wherever the periodic inspection paragraph the D25 of the section reveals whenever the employee has reason to believe that there are deviations within the inadequacy of the employee's knowledge for the use of the energy control procedure. The retraining, reestablishing the employee proficiency shall introduce the new revised control method of procedures necessary. The employer shall certify that the employee training has been accomplished by being kept up to date. Certification contained the employer's name and date of the training material, particular materials and hardware, locks, tag, chain with wedges, key, block with adapter pin, self-locking fasteners, other hardware shall provide with the employer for the isolating, securing, block with the machine, the equipment for the energy source. Lockout device for the tag-out device, the signaler would identify should be the only device for controlling the energy, may not be for the other purpose shall be for the following. The lockout device for the tag-out device shall be capable of withstanding the environment to which they are exposed for the maximum period of time that the exposure is expected. Tag device should be constructed with imprints over the exposure to the weather conditions. Wet, damp locations will not cover the tag out, deteriorate with the message over the tag will become illegible. Tag out devices shall be constructed with deterioration whenever the corrosive environments. Lockout device for the tag out devices shall be standard for the facility. At least one of the following criteria for the color, shape of the side of the additional case for the tag out device print format shall be standardized. Lockout devices should be substantial enough to prevent the removal without use of excessive force, unusual techniques such as over the bolt cutters, metal cutting tools. Tag-out device included the means of detachment shall be substantial enough to prevent an inadvertent accident or remove the tag-out device attachment means that it should be non-reusable type of detachment, attachable by hand with the self-locking, non-releasable minimum unlocking strength with not less than 50 pounds. It will have the general design of the basic character for the being level of the least equivalent to the one piece for all environmental tolerant nylon cable type. Each lockout device and tag-out device shall be included with the provision of identification of the employee buying the device. Tag-out devices shall warn the hazardous condition for the machine. The equipment that is the energized shall include the legend such as the following: do not start, do not open, do not close, do not energize, do not operate. Note, for specific provisions cover the accidental prevention tag Z, paragraphs 1910-145 of this part of the energy isolation lockout tag-out devices application removal will only be performed by authorized employees who are performing the service maintenance of the notification. After the employee shall be notified of the employer to authorize the employee of the application removal of the lockout tag-out devices. Notification shall be given before the controls are applied after they are removed the machine. Equipment to see of the paragraph D7 of the section requirement. Second notification take place for the machine and the equipment is re-energized with the lockout tag-out application for the established procedure for the application for the energy control lockout tag-out procedure shall include the following elements of the action. Those procedures shall be performed with the following sequence before authorized for the effect for the employee turns off the machine equipment for the authorized employee with the job, the knowledge of the type of the magnitude of the energy, hazards of the energy, to control the method of the means of the control of the energy. The machine equipment shall be turned off and shut down using procedures established by the machine equipment with the orderly shutdown shall be used to avoid any additional increase of the hazard of the inflow with the result of the equipment all energy isolating devices within the control of the energy of the machine equipment that shall be physically located with the operator in such a manner to isolate the machine equipment for the energy source. Lockout the tag-out device should be fixed for the energy of the isolating device for the authorized employee. Lockout device shall be attached in a manner with the whole of the energy isolating device in a safe and off the position. Tag-out device should be affixed in such a manner as well to clearly indicate the operation. Moving the energy isolating device to the safe the off position is prohibited. With the tag-out device, should use the energy isolating device designed with the capability of being locked out with the tag attachment shall be at the same point with which the lock would have been attached. The tag cannot be affixed directly with the energy isolating device. The tag should be located closely as safely as possible the device in a position where immediately obvious for any with attempting to operate the device. Following the application of the lockout tag device, the energy isolating device, the potential hazard that stored residual energy should be relieved with a disconnected restraint that otherwise renders safe. If there is a possibility of reaccumulation of the stored energy, the hazard level of verification isolation should continue until everything maintenance is complete until the possibility of the accumulation no longer exists. Before starting work on the machine, the equipment have been locked out with the tag out with the authorized employee and shall verify the isolation de-energization of the machine. The equipment that have been accomplished with normally energized parts will be exposed to the contact with the employee with the machine. With the equipment, the de-energized the test shall be performed to ensure that these parts will be de-energized. Release for the lockout and the tag out before the lockout and the tag out devices are removed. The energy is restored with the machine. With the equipment for the procedure that should be filed within the action for the taking of the authorized employee to ensure the filing of the work should be inspected to ensure that the non-essential items have been removed from the machine with the equipment the component that are operational intact. The work areas should be checked to ensure that all the employees have safely positioned. Remove the after lockout tag out devices have been removed before the machine. Equipment started with the effective employee shall be notified of the lockout and tag out devices have been removed. Each lockout and tag device should be removed from each of the energy isolating device for the authorized employee to apply with the lockout and tag out device. However, the employee is not available to remove the device may removed under the direction of the employer provided with a specific procedure training for the steps of the removal that have been developed and documented and incorporated into the employer's energy control program. Employer shall demonstrate with a specific procedure to provide with a degree of the safety of the equivalent to provide with the removal of the device by the authorized employer who apply with a specific procedure shall include the least the following elements: verification of the employer authorized employer who apply with the device is not faculty. is not at the facility, the making of the responsibility after the contact authorized employee with the confirm him or his or her lockout device has been removed, and ensure the authorized employee with the knowledge of it before he or she resume the work of the facility. The additional requirements: if the lockout of the tag device must be temporarily removed, the energy isolating device machine the equipment must be energized with the tap of the position the equipment machine the equipment component of the air with the following sequence of the action should be taken to clear the machine equipment tools material according to the paragraph D7-1 of this section. Remove the employee with the machine the equipment in of the corner of the paragraph D7-2 and 3 of this section. Remove the lockout and tag out device specified in paragraph D7-4. Section. De-energize the procedure with the testing of the position, and de-energize all the system reapply with all energy control bench for the accordance with the paragraph D7 of this section. Continue with the servicing of the maintenance. D8. Whenever the servicing of the maintenance performed by the crew of the craft of the department of the group of the show you with the procedure with the forwards of the employee with the level of the section equivalent provide for the implementation of the personal lockout tag out device group of the lockout and tag out device show in accordance with the procedures required with the paragraphs D3, D23, and D24. With the section include, but not limited to, the following specific requirements. Primarily, responsibility should be vested in the authorized employee with a set of the number of employees working under the protection of the group of lockout devices. Shall be operations of the lock. Provision shall be made by the authorized employee with the associate, certain with the exposure, the staff of the individual group members with the regard of the lockout and tag out machines of the equipment. When more than one crew with the craft, the department of the group involved with the assignment with the overall associated lockout and tag out as the control of the responsibility given to the authorized employee designated. To coordinate the effect of the workforce, ensure the continuity of the protection, and each of the unauthorized employee with shall fix the personal lockout tag device of each authorized employee shall fix the personal lockout tag device of the group of lockout device of the group of locks. Preparable mechanism which he or she began with the worker shall remove those devices when he or she stops working on the machine. The equipment of being services maintained with the procedure shall be used during the shift of the personnel change, but ensure the continuity of the lockout and tag out procedures or protection. Involved with the provided vision with the orderly transfer to lockout tag out device protection between the outgoing and oncoming employee with the minimum of their exposure to the head for the unexpected energy of the start of the machine equipment from the release stored energy. Whenever the outside of the servicing of the personnel that engage with the activity covered in paragraph D with the section outside with the employee with the outside of the employer shall inform each other with the respective lockout tag out procedures. Each of the employers shall ensure that his or her personnel understand that they comply with the restriction and prohibition of the energy control procedure being used. If the energy isolating devices are isolated with a central location or under the exclusive control of the system operator, the following requirements apply to the employer shall produce the affords for the employee level of action equivalents provided with the implementation of the personal lockout tag out device. System operator shall play for the removal of the lockout tag out device in the place for the authorized employee under the paragraphs for D4, D64, D74 of this section. Provision shall be made identified by the authorized employee with the responsibility that is being protected by the lockout tag out device transferable, the responsibility lockout tag out device, and the ensure the authorized personnel requesting removal of the transfer of the lockout tag out device is one responsible for it being device for the removal of the transfer. Enclosed space for the paragraph cover the enclosed space for the may be entered for the employees. It does not apply to vault determination made ventilation system for the operative with the protect for the employee before they enter the space of the paragraph apply with the routine entry with the enclosed space for the loop. Permanent space entry requirement to contain paragraph D through K with the 1910-146 of the precautions given in paragraph E and T of this section. Take up the hazards remain within closed space and endangerment of life within and could interfere with the escape of the space of the entry of the enclosed space of the meet with the permanent space of the entry requirement of the paragraph D through K with the 1910-146 of this part. Entries shall enclose with the space of the conduct in accordance with the permanent space of the requirements of paragraph D through K with this 1910-146 with the consider the complying with the paragraph with E of the section. Safe for the work practice for the employer shall ensure the use of the safety of the work practice for the entry into the work and the enclosed space for the rescue of the employees such spaces. Training employees who encounter enter the enclosed space who should be intended should be trained with hazardous enclosed space entry with enclosed space entry procedure with enclosed space rescue procedures. The rescue equipment employees shall provide the equipment that does ensure the prompt and safe the rescue of the employees enclosed space. Evaluation of the potential hazard. Before entry of the cover the enclosed space, the room of the employer shall determine whether the shape of the defect or whether check with the presence of the atmosphere, prepare for the temperature, for the difference of the evaluation, whether they might be hazardous atmosphere in the space, but any condition making it unsafe to remove the cover shall be eliminated before the cover is removed. Note the evaluation can be from the evaluation can be called for the paragraph to make it a two for the check of the condition expect with the enclosed area. For example, the cover should be checked with an necessary if it's hot in hand, if it's hot and fastened in place, but could loosely gradually to relieve the residual pressure for the determination must also be made whether the conditions on the side of the cover the hazardous atmosphere such as oxygen deficiency, flammable atmosphere developed within the space. Removal of the cover to remove the enclosed space for the opening should be properly guarded with railing temporary with the covers over the barrier intended to prevent the accidental falling through the opening, protect the employee with working with the space from the objects entering into the space. Hazardous atmosphere. Employees may not be deemed within enclosed with the space which contained with the hazardous atmosphere within the left entry of the form of the generic permit required with the confinement of the space with the standard of the 1910-146 of this part of the term entry of this defined in 1910-146b of this part. Attendance while working with the performer that enclosed with the search for the person A trading medium the paragraph B of the section showing immediately available outside within enclosed spaces for the render for the emergency assistance if there is reason to believe that the hazard may exist in the space that hazard exists between the traffic patterns. If the area of the open and the the entry of the person is not precluded from them performing the other duties outside of the enclosed space if the duties do not distract the attendant for the monitoring and employed with this space for the C paragraph of D3 for the special additional requirements for the attendants for work and manuals. Calibration test instrument with the test instrument used for the monitor the atmosphere within enclosed with the space should show the calibration with a minimum accuracy plus or minus 10%. Testing oxygen deficiency before an employee enters for the enclosed area of the internal atmosphere should be tested for the oxygen deficiency direct reading meeting with a similar instrument with the capable of the collection immediately and that sample without need for the offsite with an evaluation. If the continuous force over the air of ventilation is provided, but the testing is not required to provide the procedure, you can ensure the employees are not exposed to the hazards posed by the oxygen deficiency testing for flammable gas and vapor before the employee enters for the enclosed space for the internal atmosphere should be tested for the flammable gas vapor, the direct reading immediate with the similar with the instrument capable of the collection and immediate analysis of the data sample with the need of the offsite evaluation. So shall be performed with after the oxygen test ventilation by paragraph E9 with the section demonstrate that there is sufficient oxygen to ensure the accuracy of the test of the flammability. Ventilation and monitoring of the flammable gas vapors for the detect of the oxygen deficiency force in the air. Ventilation shall be used to maintain oxygen safe level to prevent hazardous concentration flammable gas vapors and for accumulation, a continuous monitoring program to ensure that no increase of the flammable gas or vapor concentration curve may be followed in lieu of the ventilation. If the flammable gas vapor the detected and safe level exceed the definition for the hazardous atmosphere conditions for the determination whether or not they give the concentration substance from the consider of the to be hazardous. Specific ventilation requirements. If the continuous force air around ventilation with you at the beginning with before the entry made with the shell be maintained long enough to ensure the safe atmosphere exists before the employees are allowed to enter the work area. Forced air ventilation shall be directed to ventilate the immediate air when the employees are present within the enclosed space that shall continue with all the employees leave the enclosed space. The air supply for the continuous forced air ventilation shall be formed of the clean surface. The source of the may not increase the hazard of the enclosed source spaces. Open flames if you within the enclosed space for the test of the flammable gas vapor that shall be immediately before the open flame. The device is used at least once per hour. While the device is used in the space, the testing should be conducted more frequently if the conditions present within the enclosed space indicate that once per hour is insufficient. If the detect the hazard accumulation flammable gas and vapor, the definition of hazardous atmosphere for the guidance for determining whether or not the given the concentration substance of the consider for the hazard excavation operation shall comply with the subpart B of part 1926 for this chapter. Personal protective equipment. General personal protective equipment shall meet with the requirements of subpart 1 of this part. Fall protection. Personal fall the rest equipment shall meet with the requirements of subpart M of the part 1926 of this chapter. Body belt and safety strap for the work of the position shall meet with the requirements of statute 1926 959 of this chapter. Body belts and safety strap, lanyard, lifeline, and body harness shall be inspected before you for the each for the day to determine that the equipment is safe for the working condition. Defective equipment may not be used. Lifeline shall be protected against the being cut with the braided fall arrestment equipment at work position equipment that travel the restricting equipment that shall be given to the employee with working at elevated rates location more than 4 feet above the ground pole of the tower with a similar structure. The fall protection has not been provided. The fall protection equipment is not required to be used. Qualified employee with a climbing chain for the location of the pole tower, similar structure unless conditions such as not limited to the ice and high winds of the design of the structure. For example, no provision of holding with hands of the presence of the common examination of the structure could cause the employee to lose his or her grip of the footing. The note of the paragraph applied with the structure of the support overhead with electrical power generation, transmission, and distribution line with equipment that does not apply with the portion of the building and the loading of the dock for the electrical equipment that serves the transformer, the cast faster, the aerial lifters, requirements of the wall protection associated with the walking and the working surface is contained in the subpart D with this part with the requirements of the fall protection associated with the aerial lift that are contained in the statute 1910-66 or 67 of this part. Employee undergoing the training but not considered the qualified employee with the purpose of the provision. Unqualified employee include the trainings as required with the fall protection anytime that they are more than 4 feet above the ground. The following requirements apply with the personal fall arrest system. The statically resting with the fall personal fall arrest system shall limit the maximum arresting force for the an employee to the 900 pounds if used with the body belt. When stopping and arresting the fall with the personal fall of the arrest system shall be limited the maximum arresting force for the employee with the 1800 pound if used with the body harness ball. Personal fall of the arrest system shall be rigged such that the employee can either fall for more than 6 feet within nor contact with the lower level. If the vertical line of the drop lines are even no more than one employee, they may be attached at one lifeline. The snap hooks may not be connected loops of the webbing of the type line yards. Snap hooks may be connected to each other. Ladders and platform step bolts and manhole steps. General requirements of the ladders contain the subpart D with the part of the platform except for the specifically notified in paragraph H2 of the section, especially as ladder with the platform, portable ladders on the platform is used with the structure connected with the conjunction with the overhead line work need not to meet the requirements of D2.1, D2.3 of the 1910 25 of this part, paragraph C3. 1926 of this part. However, these ladders platforms shall meet the following requirements. Ladders and platforms should be secured to prevent their becoming accidentally dislodged. Ladders and platforms may not be over the excess of the working lift for which they are designed. Ladders and platforms may use application for which they are designed and configuration which they are used. Ladders and platforms should be capable of supporting without failure at least 2.5 of the maximum intended load for the conductive ladders. Under the portable metal layers or other portable conductive layers may not be exposed with the energy line of the equipment. However, the specialized high voltage work of the conductive ladders should be used with the employer to demonstrate with the non-conductive ladders where present with the great heads of the conductive ladders and in portable power tools. The general paragraph 8.1 I2 with the section applied with the electrical equipment connected with the cord with the plug with the I3 with the section applied with the portable vehicle mounted generator to use the supply cord and plugged in connected with the equipment. Paragraph I1, I4 with the section applied with a hydraulic and pneumatic tool. With the I2 with the cord with the plug connected to the equipment. The cord plug with the connected equipment supplied with the premise of wiring is covered in paragraph of the subpart SAS over the spar. Any cord over the plug connected with the equipment supplied with the premise of the working comply with one of the following loop with the statute 1910 243A5 with the part with the shall be equipped with the cord containing the equipment grounding conductor of the connected with the tool frame with the means of the grounding other end. However, the option may not be used with the introduction from the ground of the work environment and contribute the hazards to the employee, or it shall be double insulated type of configuring with the part S of the part. It shall be connected with the power supply with through the isolating transformer and with an underground secondary. Portable vehicle mounted generator. The portable vehicle mounted generator with the supply cord with the plug connected with the equipment shall meet with the following equipment. The generator may only supply with the equipment located with the generator with the vehicle with the cord plug connected to the equipment with the receptacles mounted with the generator or the vehicle with the non-current with the carrying the metal parts with the equipment grounding with the conductor terminal with the receptacle shall be bound with the generator frame. In the case of the vehicle mounted generator in the frame of the generator shall be bound with the vehicle, the neutral conductor shall be bound with the generator frame. Hydraulic pneumatic tools, safe operating pressure for the hydraulic pneumatic tools, hoses, valves, pipes, filters, and fittings may not be seated. If any have the defect of this present, the operating pressure that would be safe with the hydraulic pneumatical equipment involved with not being used if the absence of the defect with the maximum rating operating pressure and maximum safe pressure. Hydraulic pneumatic tools used within may contact with exposed lab parts shall be designed and maintained for the use of the hydraulic system supplying with the hydraulic tool wherever the inmate comes in contact exposed lab parts shall be provided with the protection against the loss of the isolating value of the voltage involved in doing the formation for the partial vacuum in the hydraulic line. No hydraulic lines without check valves having the separation more than 35 feet between the oil reservoir and the upper end of the hydraulic system promote the formation of the partial vacuum. A pneumatic tool with the use of the energized electrical lines and equipment that you better or use when they make contact with the exposed lab parts shall provide with the protection against the accumulation of the moisture in the air supply. Pressure shall be released before the connections are broken unless the quick action self-connecting connectors that use the hoses may not be kinked. Employees may not use any part of the body to locate the attempt to stop the hydraulic leak. Lifeline tool. The design of the tool, lifeline tool, rod, the tubes, and poles shall be designed and constructed with the following minimum tape. 100,000 volts per foot with the length of the 5 minutes for the tool is made with the fiberglass reinforced plastic, or 75,000 volts per foot of the length, or 3 minutes for the tool is made of wood. Otherwise, technically employer for demonstrate with equivalent note that live line tools are used with the rod, the tube, with the meat for the ASTM F711 89 with the standard specification fiberglass reinforced plastic rod and the tubes used with the live line tools conform paragraph J11 of the section. Conditions of the tools. Each line tool should be wiped clean, visually inspect for the defects before use of each day, and the defect with contamination could cause adversely affect with the insulating quality of the mechanical integrity of the live line tool for the present. With the after wipe of the tool should be removed with the surface expand and tested in accordance with paragraph J23 of this section before being returned to the surface. Live line tools used with the primary employee with the protection should be removed with the years from surface every 2 years whenever the required with under paragraph J23 with the J22 of this section examination, cleaning of the repairing with the testing of the following. Each tool shall be thoroughly examined the defect with the defect with contamination could isolate virtually affect the insulating quality of the mechanical integrity of the live line tool found with the tool with it should be repaired and repaired with the refinish with the permanent with the remove of the surface of the stone should no defect with contamination found with the tool should be cleaned the wax. The tool should be tested in accordance with the paragraph G23D and J23E with the section under the following conditions. After the tool has been repaired, to furnish the after the tool examination of the repair finishing with it not performed and left the tool is made up from a FRP rod for foam filled FRP tube, the employer can demonstrate that the tool that is not defective with the call of the failing use. Sends message to you with the design to verify that the tool is integrity along with the desired working length within the tools made with the FRP with integrity under the wet conditions. The voltage applied during the test shall be as follows: with 75,000 volt per foot of the length of the 1 minute for the tool is made of fiberglass. 50,000 volts per length of the 1 minute if made of wood. Or other tests of the employer to demonstrate the equivalent of the guideline for the examination claim with the preparing with the servicing testing of the live line contained with the Institute of Electronic Engineering Guide with the service maintenance and electrical testing of the live line tools, IEEE standard 978. 1984. Materials handling store for the general. The material handling store shall conform with the requirements of subpart N of this chapter of this part. Material storage of the de-energized of the equipment in the air is not restricted to the qualified person only of the materials. Equipment that may not be stored close to the energized line with exposed to the energized parts of the equipment. The following distance purpose of the man with providing the maximum swag with the side swinging with the all conductor provided with the height of the movement of the material handling equipment. 4 lines of equipment energized with the 50 kilovolt with the less than the distance of the 10 feet, with the line of the equipment energized with the more than 15 kilovolt with the distance of the 10 feet or plus 4 inches with the 10 kilovolt with the over 50 kilovolt. In areas restricted, the qualified material may not be stored with the working space with the off the bout energized the lines of equipment requirements side of the working space are contained with the paragraphs U1 and V3 of this section. Worker not exposed to the energized part of the paragraph apply with the work exposed lives parts are near enough to them to expose the employee any hazard. The general, only a qualified employee may work on the with exposed with the energized lines part of the equipment. The only qualified employees may work on the area with the contained with the unguarded, the unisolated energized lines parts of the equipment operating at 50 volts or more. The electrical lines, the equipment should be considered the tree with the entry unless for the provision of the paragraph D through paragraph M of the section as followed. Alright, except as provided in paragraph L1, 2 of the section, that at least 2 employees shall be present when the following type of work are being performed. Installation removal, the repair of the line with the energized with more than 600 volt. The installation removal, the repair with the de-energized line with the employees exposed with the contact other part for the energized more than 600 volt. The installation removal, the repair with the equipment for the transformer, the capacity of the regulators if the employees exposed with the contact with the parts energized at more than 600 volts. Working involved with the mechanical equipment, other insulated air lift with the needs or parts of the energized with more than 600 volt. The other work of the reports of the exposed, the employee with the electrical head with the greater the equal of those of the opposed to the operation with the explicitly listed in paragraph L11A and L11D of this section. Paragraph L11, this section does not apply with the following operations. Routine switching with the strict with the employer can demonstrate with the condition of the site allow the work with the perform safely work perform in the live line tool for the employee with his position with the he or she in the area within the reach of the or otherwise exposed with the contact with the energized parts. Emergency repair with the existing necessary the safety of the general public. Minimum approach to the distance of the employer shall ensure that the non-employee approach to the take and conductive object with the closer to the exposed energy part of the set forth in table R6 through R10 with the UV. Unless the employee is insulated with the energized part of the insulating glove of the sleeves worn in accordance with paragraph 1L3 with the section considered with the insulation of the employee with regard to the energized part of the upon this work is performed. Energized part of the insulated with the employee with the form over the any of the conductive object with the door at differential potential or. And then it goes through the charts. The employee insulated with any other exposed conductive of the object during the live line bare hand work with the paragraph of the U5, the V1, V51 section containing the requirement regarding with the insulation of live parts of the electrical with the use the two provided not conserve with the exposed and left the guard with the remove the employee with the entrance space and type of the provided insulation from the live parts. Type of the insulation the employee with is insulated with the NG part of the using insulated glove of the under paragraph the L2I of this section of the insulating if they shall be the UV, however, the insulating sleeve may not be UV on the following conditions. If the exposure and drive parts which work would not be performed or insulated from the employee, if each of the installation is placed for the opposite from the position next above the employee's upper arm with the contact with the other energized parts. Working position of the employer shall ensure that each of the employee with extent with the safety related conditions after the work of the side of the work of the position with the bullet slip of the shall work not bring the employee volume of the contact with the exposed uninsulated part of the energized with the potential difference from the employee making connection. The employer shall ensure the connection that are made as follows. In connection with the de-energized with the equipment with the line with the energized with the circle with the beam with the conducting wire of the device of the employer shall first with the task with the wire of the de-energized part of the disconnecting the equipment of the lines energized with the part circle with the beam with the conducting with the wire with the device of the employer this shall remove the source of the end first. When the lines and equipment connect with the disconnect with the energized circle with the conductor shall be kept away from the energized exposed energized parts. Apparel when working with the reaching of the distance exposed with the energized the parts of the equipment. The employer shall ensure that each of them remove the the range of the non-conductor with all spoke conductor articles, such for the key, the watch chain, for the rings, wedge, rods for the band, with the unleft the such for article that do not include the hazard associated with the contact with the entry. As part of the employer shall train with each of the employee with the exposed with the hazard flame with electrical arts of the hazard involved. The employer shall interpret the employee exposed with the hazard flame with electrical art do not wear the clothing that, when exposed to the flame, electrical art with the increase the extent of the injury that would be sustained by the employee clothing made with the following type of the fabrics, either alone with the bended or in blend, prohibited with the paragraph unless the employer can demonstrate the fabric that has been treated with the same with the condition that we can count over the clothing is worn by such a man with it to eliminate the hazards involved, acetate, nylon, and polyester and rayon. Fuse handling. When the fuse of the mesh being involved with the removal of the on bolt of the terminals and hinge drive with more than 300 volt with exposed with the parts of the hinge drive with more than 50 volts. The employee shall ensure the tool with the glove with the braid if the voltage is used. The expulsion of the type of the fuse that are installed with one or more both terminals and hinge drive with more than 300 volt. The employer shall ensure that each of the employee wears eye protection. Meeting the requirements of subpart I of this part. Use the tool ready for the voltage clear with the exhaust path of the fuse barrel. Alright, cover. Non-insulated conductor with the requirements of the section containment with the head of the exposed with the live parts, also with the wind of the work is performed proximity cover with the non-insulated wire, the non-current with the carrying metal part of the non-current carrying metal with the part of the equipment divided with the transformer, the key with the circuitry, a breaker of the housing with the shell, the tree with the engine drive with the highest voltage with which with the exposed with the left of the employer inspect the installation of the determine these parts of the ground and before they work the opening condition under load device should either open the circuit under load condition the design interrupt the current involved with the de-energizing line with the equipment for the employee reprotection application. Paragraph M of the section applied with the energizing transmission distribution line for the equipment for the purpose of protecting the employee with the control of the hazardous energy for the generation of electrical energy with the cover in paragraph D of the section. Conductors part of the electrical equipment that have been de-energized with the UV the under the perceived with the other than those required in paragraph D and M of the section applicable shall be treated with this energy. General, if system operators in charge of the line of the equipment that means for the disconnection of the requirements of paragraph M3 of the section shall be observed with the order given. And no system operative within charge of the line with the equipment that their mission with the disconnection or employed with the crew shall be designated as being in the charge of the clearance of the requirements of paragraph M3 of the section apply in order given the expected of the provided paragraph M23 with the section the employee with the charge of the clearance of the shall take place for the system operators necessary. If only one crew will be working on the lines of equipment that mean for the disconnection accessible the visible under the sole of the control of the employee in charge of the clearance paragraph of the M31, M33, and M34 with M38 and M312 of the section do not apply. Additional tags required for the remaining provisions of the paragraph M3 of the section does not include not to be used. M24. The disconnecting means for the accessible of the person outside of the employer control. For the example, the general public shall be rendered for the inoperable with which for the open for the purpose of the protecting employees. De-energized lives and equipment the designated employees shall make a request for the simple operator with the behalf of the particular section in line with the equipment to de-energize the designated employee become the employee within charge of the list determines you for the paragraph of the of the section is responsible for the clearance. All switches, disconnected jumper tabs, and taps or other means throughout the nose source of the electrical energy must supply with the particular line with the equipment the de-energized shall be open. The start of the means with the rendered inoperable. The one left that does not do so permit the tag and indicate with the employees at work. Automatically remote with the control switch if that could be covered. The open disconnecting means to close the shell you to tag out, but the point of the control with the automatic remote control feature shall be rendered inoperable unless the design does not so permit. The tag shall prohibit the operation for the disconnecting means shall indicate the employee at work. After the applicable requirements of paragraph M31 through M34 with the section have been filed with the employee within charge of the working have given the clearance for the system operating with the line of equipment to be worked shall be tested and ensured for the de-energizing. Protective ground shall be installed with the required in paragraph at the end of the section. After applicable requirements of paragraph M31 and through M36 of the section have been filed with the lines of the equipment involved with their work and de-energize. If the two or more of the independent crew that will be working on the same lines of equipment, each crew shall independently comply with the requirements of paragraph M3 of this section. Alright, M39, the transfer of the clearance of the employee of the charge or of the employee in charge of the force to leave the work site that was due to illness or other emergency. The employee supervisor shall inform the system operator employee of the operator shall be informed of the transfer of the new employee in charge of the responsible of the clearance due the relief of the clearance of the employee in charge shall notify the employees under his or her direction of the clearance to be relieved to determine all the employee within crew with are clear with the lines for the equipment to determine all the practical grounds installed with the crew that has been removed to report the information of the system operator release the clearance. The person releasing clearance shall be the same person requested the clearance unless the responsible they have been transferred under paragraph M39 of the section. Tags may not be removed unless the associated clearance has been released on paragraph M310 of the section. M313 only after the protective grounds have been removed after all the crews have the lines of equipment to have them relieve the clearance for all the employees for the clear line with the equipment and after all the protective tags have been removed given the point of the disconnection may action be initiated to re-energize the lines of equipment at the point of this connection grounding and protection of the employee application of the paragraph at the end of the section apply with the grounding with the transmission distribution line of equipment for the proposing of the protective equipment employees in paragraph N4 of the section apply for the protective grounding of the other equipment that is required elsewhere in this section. Alright, for the employee with the work lines equipment that de-energized of the lines of equipment shall be de-energized under the provision of paragraph M of the section shall be grounded with the specified in the paragraph N through N3 through N9 with the section. However, if the employer can demonstrate that the installation of the ground is impractical, the condition resulting in the installation of the ground would present the greater half of the working without the ground of the lines of the equipment may be treated with the de-energized provided that all the following conditions are met. The lines of the equipment that have been de-energized under the paragraph of the M of this section. There is no possibility of the contact with the other energized source. For the hazard induced the voltage is not present the equal potential for the zone of the temporary protection of the ground shall be played with the same location that has are arranged in such a manner to prevent each of the employees from being exposed to the hazard distance of the electrical potential. Protect the ground equipment. The protective of the ground equipment should be capable of the maximum full current and could fall with the point of the ground for the time of the necessary for the clear fall. The equipment should have the ampacity greater than the equal to number 2 AWGK American Wire Gauge Copper Guidelines protective of the grounding equipment contained with the American Society Testing Material Standards Specification for the temporary grounding system to be used in the energized electrical power lines equipment ASTM F855 1990. Protective ground shall have the impedance low enough to cause the impediment or immediate operation for the protective device in case of the accident of the energy line of the equipment testing. For any of the ground installed with the line of the equipment shall be tested for the with the absence of the nominal voltage unless previously installed with the ground test. Present. In connection with the ground with it to be attached with the line with the equipment for the ground in connection shall be attached first with the other end of the attached by means of the live line tool. Order of removal. When the ground is to be removed, the grounding device shall be removed from the line with the equipment using the live line before grounding end connection is removed. Or additional precautions. When the work is performed, the cable is the location remote of the cable to terminal. The cable may not be grounded with the cable to terminal if there is possible hazard transfer of the potential legitimate fault will occur. Move of the ground test. The ground test may be removed with the temporary during the test procedure. The employer shall ensure that each of the employee with the isolating equipment isolated with any with the hazard involved with the employer shall institute an additional measure if they be necessary to protect each exposed employee in the case of the previously ground lines of equipment and be energized. Testing and testing facility. The application paragraph over the section provided the safe work practice for the high voltage, high power testing formed in laboratory shop substation in the field with the electrical transmission distribution lines and equipment is applied with only with the testing involving the intermittent the registering of the utilizing the high voltage high power combination of the both of the non-testing with involved with the continuous measurement of the routine metering and relay and normal line work. Routine inspection made this measurement is made by the qualified employee with the consider of the routine line work and or not include with the source of the paragraph over the section as long as the hazard related with the use of the intrinsic high voltage high power source required with the normal precautions associated with the routine operation. The maintenance work required in the paragraph of this section. Two typical examples should exclude the test of the work procedure as phasing out with the testing and the testing no voltage conditions. Requirements. The employer shall establish and enforce the working practice of the protection each of the work with the hazard with high voltage of the power testing of the testing all area of the temporary and permanent of the test of the work of the practice shall include as a minimum testing area of the guarding and the grounding and the safe of the measuring with the control circle with the means to provide with the periodic safety check with the field test as or shall be included with the paragraph 06 of this section. 021. Employee will be trained with the safe of the work practice of the plan with their initial assignment of the test area with periodic reviews and updates provided in paragraph A2 of the section. Regarding TEF, the permanent of the test area should be guarded with the well fence for the barriers designed to keep the employees out of the test area and field testing with the temporary test site with the permanent of the fence of the gate that not provided the only one of the following means to prevent unauthorized employees from entering. The test area should be guarded with the use of the distinctive of the cooler safety tape with the support of the approximate waist height to which the safety signs are attached. The test area should be guarded with a barrier with a barricade. Limit access to the test area with a degree of equivalent physical visually to the barricade paragraph 032A of this section. The test area should be covered with one more to test observed at the station with the so that the entire area can be monitored. The barrier required with the paragraph 032 the section shall be removed with the protection provided with no longer needed. The guarding shall provide within the test control the access of the test equipment apparatus of the test which may become energized as part of the testing of the direction of coupling in order to prevent accidental employee with the contact energized part. Grounding practices. Employers shall establish and implement safe grounding practice for the testing facility. All accessibility the testing operation during the testing of the equipment is operating at a high voltage shall be maintained. Ground protection shall except for the portion of the equipment that is isolated from the testing operative of the guarding. Whenever the unguarded grounded terminal of the test equipment of the apparatus of the test may present, they shall be treated energized until the terminal of the test be energized. The visual ground shall be applied with the automatic when either automatically or manually with a properly insulated tool with a high voltage circuit after they have de-energized before the work is performed. The circuit of the item of the apparatus on the tap of the common ground connection should be solidly connected with the test equipment, the apparatus on the tap. The high power testing isolated with the ground return with the conductor shall be provided with no intentional passage over the current of the intent of the voltage rise can occur with the ground grade of the in the earth. However, the insulated with the ground return conductor need not to provide with the employee with it can be demonstrated that both of the following conditions are met. An isolated ground return conductor can be provided with addition to the test site of electrical energy source. The employees are protected by the hazard step within over the touch potential that may be developed during the test. Note the C appendix C with the section of information measured that can be taken with the protection employed with the hazard step within touch for the potentials. In testing which ground the test equipment means for the equipment of the grounding conductor located with the equipment power cord cannot be used due to the increased hazard of the test personnel prevention satisfactory measurement of the ground of the employee with the demonstrated the cord equivalent safety shall be provided with the safety ground shall be clearly indicated with the test setup. The test area with the after the equipment is energized with the ground shall be played with a high voltage terminal and any other exposed terminals. High capacity equipment apparatus shall be discharged with the resistor rate of the available energy. The direct ground shall be applied with the exposed terminal of the stored energy drop at the level at which safe to do so. If the trailer and test vehicle with the testing, fielding testing of the chassis with the shall be ground with the protected against the hazard touch with the potential respect with the vehicle with the instrument panel with the other conductor with the part assembly with shall be provided bonding and slice isolation, controlling and measuring circuits. Controlling wire and measuring connection to the test lead with the cable that may not be removed from the test area within left they are contained with the ground metal with the sheet with the terminated with the ground metallic enclosure within left. The other precautions are taken with the employer can demonstrate that it is in equivalent safety. Measure and other instruments for the access of the terminal for the part of the with the test personnel with the protectively against the hazard of the rising with the terminal of the part of the being commonly energized during the testing. Isolation provided with the locating and testing equipment. Middle compartment's view of the window of the interlock shall be provided with the interrupt with the power supply with the compartment covers open. The routing of the connection for the temporary wiring shall be made secure with the damage of the accident interruption for the hazard that makes the extent of the possible signal ground control and power assembly, power cable shall be kept. If the employee is present in the test area during the test, the test observer shall be private. The test observer shall be capable of implementing the immediate de-entry of the test circuit of the safety purposes. Our safety check. Safety practices governing employee work of the temporary field with the test area with the provide with a routine check of the test such of the area safety at the beginning of each of the stream of the test. Operation charge shall conduct the routine safely. Check before each of the stream of the test shall verify at least the following condition of the barrier with the guard of the or workable condition or improperly placed isolated hazards. The the system test status signal, if used, are in operable condition. Test power condition connection is clearly marked and reading it available. The emergency of the ground connections are clearly identifiable. The parts protecting equipment provided you with the required with the subpart I of this part of this section. Since the ground and power cables are properly separated. P. The mechanical equipment. The ground general equipment. The criteria. Critical safety component with the mechanical elevation. Rotating equipment shall receive the visual inspection before the use of each of the system. So you have the critical safety component with the mechanical elevating of the rotating equipment. Their component with the failure with the result in the free fall with the free rotation of the boom. No vehicle or equipment has an instructive view with the rear with the operating with the outside job site with the employee that's exposed with the hazard created with the monitoring move of the vehicle unless the vehicle has the reverse signal alarm with the audible above the surrounding noise level. The vehicle is backed up with the designated employee with the signal with if safe to do so. With the operating electrical line truck may not leave his or her position with the control over the suspended unless the employer demonstrates that no employee within including the operator may be in danger. The rubber tie with the self-propelled scrape of the rubber tire from front end of the loader of the rubber tire dove the oil type of the agricultural industrial tractor, crawler type tractors, crawler type loaders, motor graders, and without the attachment shall have the roller protector of the structure with the meat that subpart W with the part 1926 of the chapter. Outriggers. Vehicle or equipment if they provide with the outriggers shall be operated with the outriggers extended firmly as necessary for the ability of the set specific configuration with the equipment. The outriggers may not extend with the retracted outside the clear value with the operator unless all of the employees outside of the range are possible with the equipment motion. If the work area with the terrain preclude with the outrigger with the equipment may be operated with the maximum load rating of the particular configuration of the equipment. The operators apply with the load mechanical lift and the equipment used to lift the move in line with the other material that use the maximum load rating and the other design indication limitations of the condition of the work is being performed. Operation D and drive the lines of the equipment. The mechanical equipment machine operated with the minimum with the approach of the distance of the table. The tables R6 through N10 R10 are maintained with the exposed energy line with the equipment. However, the insulated portion of the aerial lift operated with a qualified employee is the list expected with this requirement. Designated employee other than the equipment operator shall observe the approach of the distance with the exposed line with the equipment given the time of the warnings before the minimum approach distance required. Paragraph the MP for one of the reach and left of the employer can demonstrate that the operator can accurately determine the minimum approach of the distance is being maintained. If during the operation mechanical equipment, the equipment can be energized, the operation shall comply with it at least one paragraph P4 3A or P through P4 3C of this section. Alright, if the energized lines exposed with the contact shall be covered with the insulating protective material with the type of the contact may be made during the operation. The equipment should be insulated with the voltage involved. The equipment should be positioned in the unisolated portion that can approach the line. If the equipment is any closer within the minimum approach of the distance of the table to R6 through R10. Each employee shall be checked with a hazard that might arrive at the equipment to contact with the engine line with the measure for the shall ensure the employee is not exposed with the hazard difference for the potential and the left of the employer can demonstrate that the method of protecting each of the employee with a hazard that might arrive at the equipment to contact with the engine drive with the measure used shall include with all the following techniques. Alright, you for the best available the ground to minimize the time of the line to re-energize the bonding of equipment together to minimize the potential difference of providing ground map to the extent of the equal potential of the AM, deploying the isolating protective equipment to barricade the guards against any remaining hazard potential differences. Note appendix C of this section contains information of the hazard step attached for the potential and the method of protecting the employee with the hazard result of such potentials. Alright, cue overhead lines, and we're going to cut the tape.